Hello there, I'm Jay Hopkinson and welcome to Geeky Goblin. This is part 5 of our Hobby Basics series, and in this episode we'll be looking at putting some base colours and a wash down on your model in order to get it on the table as quickly as possible. So far we've looked at all the tools you'll need, prepping your models for assembly, prepping your models for undercoat, all the tools you'll need for painting and getting it ready for those final stages. What we're going to do today is we're going to do a very quick look at how you can get it on the table quickly and still looking good. So I'm going to go away, I'm going to prep my painting area and I'll see you there. Okay, welcome to my lovely painting area. What we're going to be doing here is we're going to be painting this Space Marine. So we've done everything right up to now. It's been undercoated black and then it's had a gold spray sprayed over the top. The plan here is to get this model painted in a way that you can get it on the table quickly. So all I've done to speed things up a little bit is I've just put some black in the joints on the Space Marine there. That's all I've done. I watered the black down for that. So you're looking at 4 parts black, 1 part water, which essentially is a brush full of black with a tiny dab of water in real terms. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to pick a colour for the bolt gun. And this is a Minotaur Space Marine, a Minotaur chapter. So he's going to have red. The spot colour is going to be red on this one. So what we're going to do here is we're going to show you some time-saving tips to get this model done. So in the first instance, we're going to get a bit of black. And we're just going to add a tiny bit of water to that. Again, you know, essentially 4 parts black, 1 part water. I have to excuse my hands flying in and out here. And then all we're going to do, because we've done the rest of the black, all we've got left to do is the bolt gun. So, I don't know if you heard that, but my dog just came flying into the room and smashed everything up. So, we've got some black on the brush, and we're just going to paint the areas that are going to be silver in black. So the gun cartridge, the gun barrel, the stock of the gun, that's going to be silver as well. Now you see you could paint this silver and then wash it, but we're going to use a speedy technique to get this model on the battlefield. So we're just trying to save a bit of time, because what we're actually going to do is we're going to dry brush the entire model in silver, which seemed crazy at the time, but that's what we're going to do. It's important to remember when you are painting as well that it's not about what other people think. It needs to be enjoyable, because that's it, it's your hobby. You want to enjoy your hobby. You don't want to be worrying about what everybody else thinks of your miniatures. At the end of the day, if you're happy with it, that's all that matters. You're not trying to impress anyone. You're just trying to do it for pure enjoyment, really. So, and the most enjoyable thing is having painted models on the battlefield. Right. So that's the black areas of the bolt gun. We're not being too neat here. The important thing to remember is you can always go back and touch things up if you really want to. Again, you don't even have to do that, so I'll probably paint this thing, the gun sight, silver as well, so let's get that done. Not put enough black out. Let's get a touch more. Okay, so there you go. There's the areas on the bolt gun that you're going to want silver. People might like to have the sights silver, actually. Let's do that. And the gun rail. I mean, you don't want a red gun rail and a red sight, so let's get that all blacked up as well. Okay, so that's that. Perhaps we'll just do that little area in there. It doesn't matter if you get black everywhere, because you're going to go over this with red later anyway. So there we go. That's all we need to do there. So now you've got a black bolt gun. You've got the recesses here, which are black. Touch more in there. That's all your black areas. So when you are doing the recesses in here, with the paint watered down, what happens is, if you make a mistake and you get some paint on the power armour, because you've watered your paint down, what that means is you can quickly wipe that off. So stop what you're doing, either wash your brush and then wipe it off with the brush itself that's covered in water, or just use your finger. You can just lick your finger and wipe that off. So that's really useful. And also, because the paint's watered down, it means that it doesn't stay on the high edges of the recess. So as you can see in here, like, we've still got some flecks of gold showing there where it hasn't quite adhered to it properly. And that's good, because when you dry brush this, it's going to pick up on those areas nicely. I mean, there's an argument to say we could have done these bits in here black as well. Perhaps we'll do that. Perhaps we'll do that. What we're looking to do really is to pick colours in the first instance that we can wash with the same wash and dry brush with the same dry brush. So it's, instead of spending hours washing different parts of the model and, you know, trying to dry brush different parts of the models and having to touch everything up, what you can get away with is actually just cheating and doing everything the same. So, I mean, there will be a time, or you might already be at the stage, that this is too basic, but this is how I learned to get models on the table. So the next step is we're going to dry brush this. Now, you can dry brush with any paint. There are specific dry brush paints out there. Games Workshop do some really nice ones, but you don't have to use the dry brush ones. You can use any paint. The whole point of it is that you just get enough on the brush that it is coming out in sort of a dry format rather than in a wet format. I mean, you can brush it on wet if you want a thicker edge to everything. So I've got this paint here, which I think is wonderful. And it's just shaking that up there. It's called Metal Medium from Vallejo. This is a very, 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 very bright silver. It looks almost white when it's in the pot. But what I like about this paint is the way it lands on the miniature. Like, it really does hit the highlights, and because it is quite a wet paint, you can actually wipe it off the areas that you don't want it. So if you dry brush a shoulder pad, for example, and get it all over there, you can wipe that straight off. So what I'm doing now is I've put some paint on the brush, just wiping this on there until there's not much coming off the brush. Oops, sorry, oh, there you go. So there's not much coming off the brush. You can see it on your hand better than the paper. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to dry brush this entire model. This is the bit where it could all go wrong, but it won't, don't worry. You see that coming up there on the hand? And see how the knee pads are starting to be, starting to look like they've been highlighted, like it's just a cheating way of doing it all. It's not a cheating way, this is a proper technique. What am I talking about? Some people say they don't like dry brushing, but it's a valid tactic. Look at that. I mean, you're already starting to see some different tonal effects on there now. And that is shining up on the edges nicely. So you can be quite liberal with this, actually. It doesn't need to be just a small amount, you can just go for it. But what you'll see here is, now you might not like the black part of the silver part of your bolt gun being so bright silver, but that's fine. You can make that decision later, but you've done it black for this reason. So if you do decide that you're happy with that on the bolt gun, it's done. You don't have to do anything else. And you've just hit it with a dry brush colour that you're doing on the entire model. So that saved you a lot of time. There you go. There's a nice smear all over the shoulder pad, which I can just wipe off with my finger, and it's gone back to being gold. Great, lovely. So now this is how easy it is, really. And it's enjoyable as well. I actually enjoy dry brushing because you really feel like you're going to finish a miniature really quickly. Look at the shine on that model now. That's great. And it's easy. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to leave the bolt gun this bright silver just because I'm trying to show you time-saving tips here. But if you look now, those recess areas that we did in black, you see how the silvers hit those? Just here and here. Now they look like somebody has painted those black and highlighted them in grey, but it's not grey, it's silver. But because the model's got this dry brush all over it and it's on different colours, it looks slightly different in the tonal areas there. So that's lovely. Easy mode. In fact, you know, I'm enjoying this so much that I'm tempted just to keep going and making this really bright. Down in the feet area there. Just get some more on that knee pad. I mean, if you've just joined us here after watching some guy airbrushing a miniature for like 3 years, you're going to think this is basic, but hey ho, whatever. This is about getting models on the table. There you go, looking good. Let's get some more all over that helmet. Right, okay. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to pick some colours. Well, we already know it's going to be red. And we're going to put the red on. So we haven't washed this model yet at all. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put the red on the shoulder pad, and we're going to put red on the eagle. I mean, you could do a black eagle, I suppose. Doesn't matter. We're showing you red. So we're going to take, normally I would go with a darker red and do corn red, and then I would highlight that up. But because we're going backwards and making things darker, I'm going to start with a brighter red. Now, I've got Mephiston red there. This is actually an airbrush paint. And to me, that just looks like it's already watered down perfectly. So we're going to paint this on the shoulder pad, and we'll probably do 2 thin coats. I like 2 thin coats because, again, if you make a mistake, you can wipe it off easily. Right. Just get that as smooth as you can. There we go. I'm actually surprised I managed to stay within the lines there. It's unusual for me. All right, we've got 1 red shoulder pad. I mean, you could do both. I'll tell you what, let's do both, and let's do a silver eagle on the crest instead of doing a red one. I'll show you another colour. So we'll get both these shoulder pads done red. Perhaps you'd like a red knee pad as well. This is just purely getting that first layer down. I actually find it as quick to do 2 thin layers as one thick layer, just because the paint goes on so much easier and quicker. There we go, I made a nice little mistake there on the knee. Everyone makes mistakes. Do they though? Is it a mistake? We want that there, don't we? We're meant to do that. You can see it just there, below there. We can get that later if we want to. So already this is starting to look like a proper Space Marine. So we want a red bolt gun. Now if you can avoid that eagle in the middle there, then do, because save you a bit of time later. We don't want the eagle to be red. We're going to match that up with the eagle on his chest. So whatever colour you decide to do that. Now this isn't a tutorial on painting a gold miniature. This is a tutorial on how dry brushes and washes work on certain colours. They all work the same. There we go, I've covered that eagle there. Perfect, after I just said not to do it, but that's fine, that's fine. Because what we're going to do is with any miniature, you select the colours that will dry brush together and select the colours that will wash together. So if you put a brown wash on any colour, it will make it look darker in the recesses. It will look fine. Brown is the colour for that. It will work on anything. So if you were to wash this whole model with Agrax Earthshade, it'll work on any colour, so it'll look fine. Equally, if this was a Blood Angel or an Ultramarine, you could pick certain colours that will wash together, and you can pick certain colours that will dry brush together. It works on anything. I've got a Lord of the Rings miniature here, which I'm going to do as well, but just to show you how it does work on every miniature. So don't worry too much about being so neat. You see how we've missed some bits of gold? Oops, sorry. See how we've missed some bits of gold in here? We haven't got red where we want it on all of it, but for the most part, that's pretty well covered. And we'll just do a second coat on the shoulder pad now, because that'll be dry. That's the thing, by the time you get round the miniature once, the area that you started should be dry. See, it's enjoyable, this is, because I know that in about 15 minutes time I'm going to have a finished miniature. And anyone can do this. Anyone at all. And I think the most important thing is to sort of allocate, see, look, a bit of a mistake there, wipe that straight off. If you allocate yourself a certain amount of time, say I want to get this miniature painted in an hour or half an hour, then the next miniature you paint, if you're doing it the same way, will take slightly less time and then slightly less time. And before you know it, you can paint a miniature to that standard in 15 to 20 minutes. And then all that happens after that is you just get better and better with practice. You can add a few different techniques in it, into the process, do a bit of highlighting, you know, and give it a year. Seems like a long time, but give it a year and you'll be painting a model with layered highlights and all sorts in almost the same time as it took you to do this first miniature. Okay, so that now is starting to look quite nice. Just touch up some of these areas. This is the second coat of red, so you can just catch some of those areas that you missed before. Go around the back, don't worry about those bits of gold showing up. If you feel like you need to add a bit more paint in certain places where the coat hasn't gone on quite as well, that's no problem. But this is why we use thin paints, because you can keep doing that. So that's not looking bad now. Oops. It's not looking too bad at all. So that is a miniature that is, you know, you could put that on the table. Maybe we don't need to do anything else. We're going to do the eyes. This is the bit that always goes wrong for a lot of people. So eyes for me on Space Marines, get the model sideways on and paint in downward strokes. That's how I like to do it. There we go, that's an eye done. Same at the other side, absolutely no problem at all turning the miniature upside down because you've got a painting handle, and that means you can do the exact same stroke with the brush, just downwards. So now we've got some eyes. Okay, so now is the time, if you want to touch up any terrible errors, now is the time that you should probably go and do that if you've got some major mistakes. Now, let's see what I've got on here, major mistakes wise. I mean, what stands out at you there? Probably the knee pad, just there. Perhaps I've got a tiny bit too much red around there. But that's it really. That's not too bad. But we will just touch that up. So I've used a spray paint that there is a paint of, which is Retributor Armour. I try to make sure that my undercoat paints also have a paint pot available, purely for this reason, so you can go back and touch mistakes up without it looking too terrible on the model. There we go, that's that. Oh, we said we were going to do a silver eagle as well, didn't we? Let's do that. So for this one, we won't be using the silver that we used to dry brush the entire model. We'll be using lead belcher. It's just a darker silver. So this one, make sure you can get the brush in. One thing I actually have always said about this is if you can't get the brush in somewhere to a part of the model, then no one is going to see it. Like, I can't get this brush to the bottom of that eagle. Now that means that I will never notice that ever again once this miniature's finished. It's not going to bother me. I'm not going to pick this miniature up and start inspecting it all the time and going, oh, should have got the brush in there, should have done this. It'll just get forgotten about. And if you are trying to impress your friends, they're not going to pick that model up, are they? And look in all the recesses and crevices to see if you've managed to get that in there. I mean, that'd be madness. No one wants to do that. Right, there we go. That's as much of that as I can get. This is the time as well with lead belcher if you want to add any extra bits to the helmet. Some people like to have this tube here painted in a silver colour. I don't, so I won't be doing that. Okay, that's that done. So he's not looking bad at all. So the next stage is the wash stage. So you can, for the most part, with most miniatures, you'll just be putting Agrax Earthshade straight over the entire model. Agrax works on red, it works on gold, it works everything. So I'm just going to get some of that out now, and then we'll come back for the wash stage. Right, so we are about to wash this model. I'm going to tell you this tip now, and then when it all goes wrong, you can blame my silly techniques. But, so Agrax is the paint, the wash that works on everything. On metallics and darker colours, you probably want to use Nuln Oil. But because we want the red and the gold doing here at the same time, because what you would normally do is you'd normally have 5 or 6 of these miniatures on the go. So you don't want to have to put your paint lid down, tip some more out, do the black, do the brown. What I've done is I've mixed 3 parts Nuln Oil with, 2 parts Nuln Oil with 5 parts Agrax. So that will make a wash that will, I guarantee it, that will sort both those colours out with no messing, and it'll probably work on the silver as well. We're going to put some Lamium Medium in to the wash that you're mixing. Just mix it on a little plate. Lamium medium, what does it do? It thins your paints down like water. However, there's some magic trickery that helps it stay off the raised areas and only go into the recesses. So there's some science involved in that, and I don't know what it is. But it doesn't matter, I know it works. So that's what we've got. So that's what my little mix looks like now. Just here. So we've got Agrax, bit of Nuln Oil, and some Lamium medium. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to cover that entire model in that wash. Now I'm not just saying that you blather this and just don't care about it, because we'll be given an opportunity here to wipe it off areas where we don't want it. So we're going to do the whole model. Don't worry about any of the colours, because you've already picked colours that you know work together. And that is smoothing out all the dry brushing as well. Any scuffs. So this is all just going straight in here, everywhere. You will find sometimes that it pools. Just keep your eye on that. You can catch it because this takes a while to dry. So you can catch that pooling at the bottom around the feet, and all you need to do there is just put a clean dry brush in there, and it just pulls the wash off. In fact, I'm almost tempted to do it just to show you how that works. So we're just washing this entire model with your mix of Lamium, Agrax and Nuln. Okay. Everything, the whole lot. If you don't like the way it looks on the silver, then you can just use Nuln Oil on the silver. You can use it after, it'll be fine. There we go. Now I've put a lot in there because I noticed that the undercoat has missed a bit in there. So we've done a bit of grey Space Marine, but you put plenty in and it'll cover that up. Let's have a look. Where else is it needed? Bit more all down here, all over there. Make sure we get under here, make sure you don't forget any of the areas. Sort of starting to feel like the more I put on, the better this looks, but don't want to get too carried away. One thing that is important is once you've put the wash on, like a shoulder pad or something, and you think, oh, I'll just put a bit more there. If you've let it dry too long, don't go back and pull that away, because what will happen is you'll end up with like a dripping sort of effect. Like, it'll look weird. It just sort of pulls it away, and you don't want that. Right, so here we go. See the pool in there? If you don't want that all in there, clean your brush up a bit and pull a bit out while it's still wet. There we go. Oh, look at that. Perfect. Look at that. There is a big pool on that foot there. See it? And that's going to look dreadful. So just clean the brush off, stick it in, and that pulls that straight out. This is all part of the wash process. This is no trick. It's just, that's what you should be doing anyway. Pull a bit more out. Pull a bit more out from there. You can then use this somewhere else where you may have missed something. Like up here, not wasting paint. We've got a nice little pool there. I quite like that though. I'll keep that one in there. A big pool on the backpack. Definitely don't want that. So let's get rid of that. See how that comes out nicely. And we've got a little pool down here. There we go. So just keep your eye on that for a couple of minutes. Oops, keep your eye on that as you're watching paint dry. But if you can't see any massive pools anywhere, then you're pretty much safe with that now. Think, yeah, he's okay. Leave him, let him dry. And that's that. You've just painted a Space Marine. I mean, if you followed that and done it as I've done it, that is a done Space Marine to me. That's a quickly finished Space Marine, ready for the battlefield. Obviously he's not got a base. I haven't based him, but I'd quite like to do a video on basing. There are ways you can speed up the basing process as well. You want, yeah, do you know, I've completely forgotten about this on the shoulder pad there. This purity seal. So I probably should have done that beforehand, because I could have put Rakarth flesh on here and a darker red there. And when I washed it with this wash, that would also be done as well. That's my fault that I've just missed out on that. His eyes look fine, everything looks fine. That is a done model. And it was enjoyable as well. Like, it didn't take very long. And that's what it's all about. Don't let anybody tell you that you should do something in a certain way. Or don't let people tell you that dry brushing's bad or anything like that. Just do what you think's best, and whatever suits you, just go with it. You know, if that was a blue Space Marine and we dry brushed it in a lighter blue, put black shoulder pads in, a black bolt gun, and then dry brushed the bolt gun, and then washed it all in a similar wash to this, that would also be done. Just because this is gold, you know, in fact, a lot of people find it difficult to paint gold, but that just goes to show how easy it is. But yeah, any colour, that works with anything. Just pick a lighter dry brush. So I hope you've enjoyed that. I enjoyed it, and I have another model ready for the table, which is great. Keep your eye out for the next few videos. What I'm going to do is, although it's still part of the hobby basics, I'm going to do the same thing with this model. But what I'm going to do is, I'll probably dry brush the entire model silver, because there's a lot of metal on there. And then I'll pick out the colours, you know, the purples or etc. And then I'll wash it and it'll be done. I promise you that'll be done. So there we are, one painted miniature. And in less than half an hour, I don't think that's too bad. All it needs is basing, and we've got some videos on basing coming up in the future. I think the thing to remember about the hobby basics videos are, it is hobby basics. And, you know, if you've been painting for a long time, then perhaps you may have seen something in this that you thought, well, why haven't I ever done that? Or, you know, why haven't I used an undercoat stick, for example? So you may have learnt something anyway, but if you are completely new to the hobby, I'd like to think that those 5 videos give you everything you need to go from start to end to have a painted miniature on the tabletop. And not just that though, I think the mindset of being able to paint and do hobby is really important. And I tried to bring some of that across, you know, like keeping your hobby area tidy and not getting daunted by what other people think, and, you know, just doing it for yourself and your own pleasure. And that is what it's all about. So thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed it, hit subscribe and hit like, and I look forward to doing more videos for you soon. Thank you.